Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 550 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of having Dr. Jeffrey Wack on the podcast. And today we discuss how to hold true to our heritage and stand strong on the principles of chiropractic philosophy. For this episode, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Jeffrey Wack on with me. He's coming out of New Jersey. We've had a bit of a hiatus with the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's been 6 weeks, so this is our first show in 6 weeks, guys. I'm really excited to get back to you. I'm really excited to talk about chiropractic and what it means for the profession, what it means for the people that need chiropractic, and what it means for the practitioners. But before we get into this episode, I'm just going to let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here? Well, first things first is freedom of speech, Second Amendment. We believe in freedom of speech. I know what it's like to be shadow banned. I'm a small potato in this world, and I know like what it means to have freedom of speech. So our platform gives freedom of speech to everyone in the chiropractic profession. We never censored anyone. We never will. And we believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things. But you have to understand that we need to hold the line with medical freedoms in our culture. And I do believe that chiropractors are the ones to hold up that truth and that standard for medical freedom for families. And then we do believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence, which are philosophy within chiropractic. And a lot of times people forget that philosophy is a part of chiropractic. I know we're going to talk about that today also. And we protect the sacred trust. BJ Palmer's last words. If you don't know what the sacred trust is, go and do a quick search on whatever your favorite search engine is. Stop right now, stop this interview and go look. What is BJ Palmer's sacred trust? And you're going to learn so much more about chiropractic than you previously knew. I guarantee you. And then last but not least, I'm really excited to have Dr. Jeffrey on here today. I met him a handful of times now over the past couple years. We've had a chance to be at a New Beginnings before, and I can't remember the other places that we've come in touch with each other over the past couple months, maybe Sherman. And it's been really an honor to get to know you, and thank you for taking the opportunity to be on with this show. I know you do support Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Beginnings, and the ICA, and those are really, like, I believe, fundamental foundations for this profession to stand on. So thank you for doing that. And as we roll into today's episode, one of my favorite segments is your story and telling your story about chiropractic. So if you would mind, share with us, how did you get into chiropractic? And maybe you could share with our audience a little bit that don't know you, what your position is within chiropractic, and how did you become the guy you are today with it?
Well, Jim, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on with all the other notable people you've interviewed over the past few years. And I hope my sharing gives somebody something they can take with them into their life, into their practice, and just improve things within themselves. I am from Pennsylvania, not New Jersey. So no
you went
big
to
deal.
school in New Jersey.
I'm on the eastern side of the state, so I'm real close. And I did grow up in New Jersey, so close enough. But anyway, when I was about 5 years old, I had some really bad headaches, and my parents, in 1967, the first course of action was Bear orange flavored children's aspirin. And I would take the aspirin, and while my headache would subside, my eyes would swell up and I had an allergic reaction to aspirin. which turns out was a good thing because they didn't know what else to do. And my dad knew of a chiropractor not far from us, and we lived in a rural area. My town is 1 square mile with 1,000 people. So we found this guy who was in the middle of a 2-lane road in the middle of farm country, Dr. Marr. He had a ranch house with a home office and a circular driveway where you just pull in, get out, get adjusted, get in your car, and go out the other side and go home. And I remember vaguely in my brain how I laid down. I looked up and saw the fluorescent light above the table laying on my back. He did a diversified adjustment on me. And I don't recall if my parents, how many times they took me back or even if they did, but I know from that point forward, I didn't have any more headaches. And that was really cool. So, excuse me, as time progressed, I grew into a teenager. I did a lot of things like ride motorcycles, a lot of active stuff. And I'm an only child, so we lived on 9 acres. I had formed my own entertainment, swinging on vines, playing in the barn, all that kind of stuff, and probably subluxated myself numerous times. And when I was about 16, I had real bad sinus and allergy problems, and they just wouldn't go away. I tried the antibiotic route, did 2 or 3 different rounds of that with different types of antibiotics, and I would get initial relief, but never total resolution of my allergy symptoms. And then my dad was going to a different chiropractor at the time and said, talked to him about my situation. And he said, hey, why don't you bring him in? You got nothing to lose. Tell him to, come and get adjusted. Same thing, laid on my back. I remember seeing the lights on the table, and boom, he rattled my atlas, and I felt it all the way down to my toes. And the next day I was probably 75% better. And initially I just went back for the resolution of, my allergies, and it did very well with that. But being a very independent person, I always wanted to have my own business of some sort. And I said to myself, well, geez, chiropractic's great because I can help these people without drugs or surgery, and I can make my own hours because I'm an independent guy. So, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And that was one of the major appeals for me. So he was a Palmer graduate and recommended that I look into Sherman College. And we had gone down to Sherman, and I liked it because I grew up in a small town with small classroom sizes. The county college I went to was a small community college, and Sherman was perfect. We had, I think, 16 or 18 kids when I started in January of 1983, and you knew everybody at the school, which is what appeals to me. The big university model is great for some people, but for me, it's about relationships and pretty much knowing everybody you pass in the hallway from day to day. So went to Sherman. I remember the first class I had was Tom Gilardi's philosophy class. I think it was Philosophy 801. I just saw Tom down at Lyceum back in May, still kicking. It's amazing, the story of him and Betty and how all of their friends started that college. But when he started talking about universal intelligence and innate intelligence, the light bulb went on. Like, this is what I'm here for? I thought I was just coming to learn how to adjust people and, have my own business and live my life the way I wanted, and realized at that moment in that class on that first day that I have more of a purpose being a chiropractor than just somebody who cracks backs. And once you learn about subluxation and the effect it has on the human body and restricts an individual from adapting to their environment, which can lead to interpersonal relationship problems, work problems, everything chemically stressing the body, it's a life-saving and life-changing profession. And that's really, the big idea is to get out there and spread that message.
So I love the story, man. I love that, it comes from family roots. And a lot of times that's how people are looking for something. They look to like somebody else that's had a good result with it. And they're like, well, how can this help me too? And I think, after I've done marketing event after marketing event after marketing event, I tell everybody, like, look, the people that are going to come in here, treat them like gold, treat them like your parents, treat them like your mom, treat them like your dad, treat them like your kids. Because if you do that, then the 50 people I'm going to send into you, you're going to be able to convert those people. And before you know it, you're going to have a 300 people visit a week practice, and you're going to have a very healthy lifestyle, and you're going to be able to actually take care of people with real chiropractic. But if you don't take care of those people like you would take care of your child or your mom or your dad or people that you love, then you're probably not going to be able to grow a sustainable practice.
Correct.
So it's cool that, you got referred in, because of the experiences that your dad had at the chiropractor, right?
Yeah, it was just, again, I don't believe anything happens by chance. I was meant to be there. That adjustment was meant to be given that changed my life and the direction of my life. And as a result, all the people I've touched. And that's, man, when it's like when we go to seminars and you just share, when I've had a chance to speak to people, if you can just touch that one person or give them that one thing that sparks something in them that makes them go that extra mile, even if they see 5 more people the following week, that could potentially be, 10 more people the following week, and so on and so on. And then if you multiply that by all the different people in the audience, it's just, that's what I enjoy about this profession, is the connection that we have with our chiropractic brothers and sisters. And it's really, really unique, and it's not found in other healthcare professions.
Yeah. And I think, when you really look at it from like an outside perspective, like me not being a chiropractor, and you come into a room like that, like it's all striking, because you're in a room full of hundreds of thousands of adjustments. And I think a lot of times the profession takes that for granted. They take for granted the philosophy, they take for granted the heritage, they take for granted the amount of impact that an organization like New Beginnings or Sherman College of Chiropractic have had on this profession. And we're always looking for more. But sometimes we need to look back at it all and say, look, this is really awesome. And now I'm in the room of 1 million adjustments. Whoa.
Yeah, it's the foundation of our profession that really put us on the map. And it's really the only thing that's going to keep us on the map. And we need to acknowledge all those that came before us, and not forget to tell the younger chiropractors that, hey, there were people that went to jail for the right to do this because they believed in the principle. They weren't making a ton of money, and certainly when they're locked up, they weren't making any money. So Herbert Reaver is our most ever incarcerated chiropractor. That's one of his claims to fame. But as soon as he got out, he would go right back and open his office again. And he had so much conviction in the fact that the world needs what we have, that wasn't a stumbling point for him. He would just do it because he knew it was right, because he knew that he knew that he knew.
Well, that's why a major premise of this show is protecting the sacred trust and telling people to go find that document and to go read about it, because then they might have a little bit more gumption to go do the right thing for the profession and learn about some of the philosophy.
It's a tough thing right now with new students, because, number one, when I went to school, there was 2 parts of national boards. Now there's 4. And, if you don't pass one, you can't go on to the next one. And then there's months between, which is something we've been working on a national level, trying to get the test given more frequently. So these kids don't have to wait 6 months between exams all the time and flounder doing nothing when they've got a mountain of debt, which they never used to have.
And here's the thing too, make them pay once. Why do you have to repay for something you've already paid for? Like, it's not this fact that you're actually going to take up more space. You're just trying to pass the damn test.
Right. And to be perfectly honest, are 4 parts really necessary? I mean, chiropractic is really not that complicated. Once you know your anatomy and physiology, other than adjusting and x-raying people, that's really the skills that you need to get into an office. And of course, the skill of communication. I mean, I can't stress enough how important being able to explain what you do is, because you don't do what other professions do. And you have to be clear to people that it's not like going to the general practitioner or their family doctor that they go to. I went to my other doctor last week, that they always say. So we have to be clear on what our objectives are and get them to understand that. And that's how families get started. And it just, breeds that generational chiropractic client, which is not for the doctor, it's for the sake of humanity. And if you do it for the sake of humanity, anything you want, you will have. The money comes as a byproduct of the service. The service doesn't provide the money. It's something that happens because you're doing what's right and you're doing it for the right reasons. And it comes to you as a reward from the universe.
Yeah. And I'll just be clear to people. I'll tell everybody out there, like, doing the right thing isn't always easy. it's not always financially strong to always do the right thing. But when you do the right thing for a beautiful profession like chiropractic, now your children's children can get adjusted. And
Right. And then
that's
not to offend anybody on here that may be watching, but we see a lot, and we've discussed this, some of the veterans that I know, of how, these young kids come out of school and yeah, they got a lot of debt and they want to try to pay it down quickly, but they're using a business model where they're basically putting their name on the office, bringing in other doctors to make them the money to pay off their debt. And those doctors come and go. They don't really get a rewarding experience for the most part, the ones I've talked to. And that's, you've got to be in the office. If you're going to take the time to get the degree, you have to represent and put at least a decade or two in your office yourself and not rely on other people to pay your debts for you. So it's really, a concept that I think needs to start going away. And we can only do that by having veterans like myself explain to them the importance of actually being there, being present, and not relying on others to pay down your debt for you.
And that's the thing too. Maybe those practitioners that come in and co-run an office, are they even getting adjusted? Do they know the principles of chiropractic? Do they know the philosophy of chiropractic? Do they know what the profession stands for? I think that that's an important thing too, is everybody that comes in and works under the flagship of a chiropractic practice, all those people should be getting, educated on what it means to get adjusted, how it connects to the nervous system, how that connects to the organ system, how that connects to innate intelligence, how that connects to vitality, how that connects to a life of years and years to life. All these things that chiropractic has been the foundation, the bedrock of, are the people that work inside your office getting adjusted, and are you getting adjusted? I think that that's the most important thing, is being congruent with the mission.
Right. And I think also, one of the things that really helped me over the years were the Sigafoose gathering seminars, and there's nothing like that really out there today. But I think what we have to do is, as individuals, find out who we are, because a lot of people go out there and, man, when I first came out of school, I'm just trying to grasp onto things to help me teach people. So when I would go to a Sigafoose seminar and he'd show me how he uses his flip chart, I bought his flip chart and I wrote down his script and I said his words, but they weren't mine. I didn't own it. Some people need that, but I'm not one of those people. I had to find out my voice, what works for me, what connects me with my patients, and how do I get my point across, being true to me as an individual.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle. Yeah, I've constantly thought about this idea of putting on like a free adjusting seminar where I got like 3 to 5 like real deal chiropractors. And it wasn't like state affiliated. It wasn't like, group affiliated. It was just James Chester and Chiro Hustle is going to put on a world-class adjusting seminar. And we're going to allow every chiropractic student under the sun come for free. And I just want them to learn how to adjust from masters, because I think that if we want to get back to chiropractors understanding chiropractic, then we need to have them understand that the adjustment's the one thing that sets chiropractic apart from everyone else out there in any field. Doesn't even matter the medical arena. It just matters the healing art of chiropractic, and that's done by the adjustment. So if we, like you said, if these students are coming out of school, and not to offend anybody, and they don't know how to adjust, and they're building their practice with other practitioners to try to pay down debt load, and they don't know how to do chiropractic, we need to figure out how to resource them to where they know how to actually deliver the goods and not become referral sources for the other medical models.
Right. And there are some kids that, from what I've heard over the years now, are going to chiropractic school having never been adjusted, which to me, just like, what in the world? Where did that come from?
And then they don't start teaching the chiropractic student how to adjust until they're almost out of school.
Right. And adjusting. Dennis Nicotto told me years ago, because when I followed Dr. Pierce early on, and he came out with an instrument called the Precision Spinal Adjuster, which is similar to the ArthroStim. They're still out there in some doctors' offices. I've gone to the ArthroStim because I feel it's more ergonomically comfortable for me to use. And I had a hard time being a Sherman graduate because when I graduated Sherman, it was known as the Sherman College of Straight Chiropractic. So philosophy, adjust the vertebra, correct subluxation, but it was hands-on. That was the message. And then when I started going to Pierce seminars and he developed this instrument now, I kind of struggled with, am I being true to chiropractic? Because it mattered to me. And that needs to matter to people. And Dennis Nicotto, I had him out for a seminar at my office with a few other doctors' offices in the area. And I explained to him my issue here. And he said, Jeff, using an instrument is like an artist with a brush. You're expressing through the instrument your art onto the canvas through the instrument. And it's no different that it's electronic as opposed to a paintbrush that's not. And wow, boom, unlocked all the doors for me. I was good from that moment on. It just needed to hear it. And that's why it's so important we go to these seminars and stuff too, because that's how I met Dennis, was at a Living Principles seminar in Pittsburgh. They used to have a few times a year with Wes Trout and his wife, Aline, and he's since passed on. But all these great speakers that I hear today, a lot of them started at Living Principles.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go a few layers deeper with you. You said that you used to go to Sigafoose gatherings, and in here it says that you were mentored by Reggie Gold too.
Well, I mean, I knew Reggie not terribly well personally, but I met him at Sherman College, and we had a few, knee-to-knee conversations over the years. But it wasn't like I called Reggie on the weekend and say, "Hey, Reg, what's going on?" But he also we invited him up to our office where I first started out of college. It was a group practice. This gentleman, Larry Wilkins, owned the office. He was a good friend to Dr. Pierce, which is how I got to know Pierce better, by spending time at the research center and doing some one-on-one time with him. But we brought Reggie in, and a couple of us went out to the airport to pick him up and bring him to the office. So that's where we had, a little banter going on there. So, and just one thing I thought about too, as far as the importance of all of these seminars and kind of rubbing elbows with our chiropractic brothers and sisters. My daughter recently started college out at Montana State a few weeks ago. And around May or June, I realized, like, my daughter's going across the country and nobody's ever adjusted her but me. I got to find her a chiropractor. well, how do you do that? So I put it on the New Beginnings page, and lo and behold, the right person shows up. Her name is Dr. Kim Maxwell, and she's from Bozeman. She's a native of Bozeman. She practices in Bozeman, a mile from my daughter's dorm. And I went out, and she's friends with Sean Powers, who has been her mentor for 20 years. And as soon as I talked to her and she told me she was connected to Sean, I knew that's where my daughter needs to go. There's no need to look any further. And that connection was made. And that's when you have these kinds of relationships with good principal doctors. Again, the universe provides. I just put it out there. I found her. She's perfect. I met her a few weeks ago, and she's in the right place. And I feel very good about that. I have no concerns about my daughter's chiropractic care while she's not home.
I love that. I know that we're getting to the last 9 minutes of our show together, so I do want to make sure that we cover some of the things that I think that we can make some impact with.
Sure.
I'm gonna go like lightning round with you for the next 9 minutes. So let's see how much juice we can squeeze out of the next several minutes. Why is it important to get involved with organizations like New Beginnings and to be connected with political stance stateside?
Well, New Beginnings is just one of the many organizations. You have Mile High and different groups that are getting together these days with great speakers. A lot of them travel to all the same speakers going to the same programs, but the message is always a little bit different, even if it's from the same people. And it keeps your tank full. It keeps you sharp. It gives you just those few little tidbits. I've been in practice 37 years back in June, and I can never remember not going to a seminar and getting something to come back to the office with that I now included in my table talk and my dialogue with my patients. And it's all those little things that, keep your energy up, because patients pick up on that. And if your energy's not right, you're not going to get your point across to your patient, no matter what you tell them or how you adjust them. As far as state organizations, I'm now on the board of the Chiropractic Fellowship of Pennsylvania. And this is a group that's been around since the late 60s, which a group of principled chiropractors started. And we protect the doctors in Pennsylvania for the right to practice on people of all ages, regardless of their health status, regardless of how old or young they are, whether they're symptomatic or not symptomatic. And we also protect the right for us to x-ray to locate and analyze and correct vertebral subluxation. And that's very important. And those are things that some people want to take away from us. People, even within our state, were threatening to take away some of those rights, if not all of them. And they were other chiropractors. So what their objective is and what their end game is, I have no concept. But, fortunately, we have a watchdog group that is a few of us now that is going to get stronger and stronger. We have a new mission to recruit more members in the state, because I think a lot of people honestly don't know what we do and the value. But that's what our Pennsylvania organization does. So I can't speak for other organizations out there. But I'm also a member of the ICA, which I feel very strongly through the people that are on the board, in particular Selena Sigafoose, who I've known for many years through her dad, and her husband, Kevin Jackson, a very good friend of mine. And I believe in what they stand for. And these are people taking their time, their talent, and their treasure and putting it out there to protect a principle. They don't know who they're helping when they're trying to do these programs and gather and get politically involved in federal government level issues. And it's all to protect something that the public needs. Why it's so hard to protect something that seems so right is really bizarre, but that seems to be where we're at in history. And I when people say, well, what do you see as the future of chiropractic? It all depends, honestly, on who's in the positions of power that can make the decisions, who's on their boards. You have to get involved, because this is what's going to save the principled chiropractors, and the rest of them can go do whatever it is they do, maybe under another banner. I don't know what the solution is.
Well, I think that's a very well-spoken message to people of why to get involved with their state organizations and to get into leadership positions. It might not be glamorous, you might not get a bunch of pats on the back, but I also believe that your network is your net worth. And if you have a concentrated effort of high integrity individuals that are doing the right thing, and wanting to protect and preserve this profession, that's where you need to go. So if you're a student out there, I know our number one sector of listenership are young docs. People love this show. The young docs love it because they can come on and see guys that have been practicing for a long time, or gals that have been practicing a long time, and they can get their little nugget out of this. Like you said, the same people out there on those stages on the circuit, you can hear them on 10 different stages, but you're going to get a different takeaway from everybody out there on the different day of the week. And that's kind of like what this show provides to people. Now there's a sobering agenda for the new practitioner that watches this and loves what Chiro Hustle stands for, to go out there and join their state organizations, to go out there and join the ICA, to go out there and support Sherman College of Chiropractic, who sponsors our show. Go out there and get connected with good organizations like New Beginnings and Mile High and Chiro Fest and Focus Oklahoma and Cal Jam and Dynamic Essentials. Get out there and go and support people that believe in the philosophy of this profession, that believe in the power of the adjustment.
We talked a little bit earlier before we started about, staying proactive and everything, because, years ago, I was one of those people that's like, hey, nobody's knocking at my door, so why do I need to care about any of those things, especially, donating my money, to what do they do? And now I really understand it. And by the time the wolves are at the door, it's too late. So this is all about keeping them at bay. It's about looking out for your own, and this is your family. This is a family of people that practice this principle and believe in it. And the more members of the family, the stronger it'll be, and everyone's welcome to be part of the family.
Well, I spoke many years ago now in Boulder at Mile High Philosophy Night, which used to be just like little gatherings that we would have around Colorado. And my talk was unity through diversity. And the takeaway on that is I could go get 5 appointments at 5 chiropractors on 5 straight days, and every chiropractor will check, detect, and correct vertebral subluxation a little bit different. And just to know that every chiropractor practices a different art is probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever been able to take away from this profession, that not every chiropractor is the same. Not every chiropractor will be the same. And that's the thing that makes this such a beautiful opportunity for people to understand chiropractic from a different looking glass.
Well, I think the good example was when you and I got together down at Lyceum and had a nice talk, and I went in and adjusted you, and we happened to walk in on a room full of network practitioners, and kind of like, oh, are we okay here? And I did the so-called standard adjustment where there was a little audible going on there, and I think the table was already cocked. We didn't know that, and it banged on us, and we're like, oh, are we disturbing the network people? But they did their thing. You find your own way as an adjuster too. I mean, the people say, well, what technique do you use? I use the Jeff technique. I started out with upper cervical HIO at Sherman, then I evolved into some of Dr. Pierce's work. Then I talked to different friends of mine when I was stuck with something, and they say, hey, try this. And I try it, and it's just everything's in your toolbox, and there's nothing off limits as far as as long as your objective is to be locating and correcting vertebral subluxation.
Well, I love this interview. Let's close people out with a miracle story. Over the lifetime of your practice, what's one thing that you've seen happen that makes you feel enthusiastic about chiropractic?
Well, you know what? I thought about that. I was actually cutting my grass before I got on with you today. I get very contemplative on the tractor. And as far as miracles go, you hear all these people that, had one foot in the grave and then they went on to live another 40 years. And early on in my practice, I had a young lady come in and she told me she did real well. And she told me about her dad, Gilbert, who I forget several tanks of oxygen a week he was on. He had liver problems, and he was jaundiced. And I said, well, bring him in. Let's take a look at him. He doesn't sound like he's in too good a shape. So what could we lose? So she brought in Gilbert, and I forget how many times I saw him, but like within a couple weeks, he was down to like 1 tank of oxygen a week. And Gilbert probably lived, I want to say maybe even less than a year from the time I met him, but I bought him some time through my knowledge and my privilege to be a chiropractor, to put my hands on somebody like that had totally lost hope, was just waiting to die, and he had a few extra months of life. And I went and saw him in the hospital, and I don't know if, I'm sure he was on some medication as well, but he saw me, he's like, oh, Jeffrey Wack, what a beautiful name. Thank you so much for everything you did for me. And that was the last time I saw him. And that, to me, that's a miracle. It doesn't have to be they lived another 40, 50 years or cancer went away or whatever. This guy was going to die in weeks, and we bought him some time. And that to me is one of the greatest gifts.
I've been doing chiropractic marketing events, Dr. Jeff, for a number of years now. And I just got done doing the Alaska State Fair, which I've done for the past 7 years. And the first time I went up there, I went to 4 days of it, and I scheduled 47 people. And a lot of times I don't get a chance to see like the end results of people that show up to these offices and like receive chiropractic services or get adjusted. And I was working long day. It was raining, like terrible weather in Alaska about a week ago. This guy comes up. He's like, you guys saved my life. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, my name's Scott. And you scheduled me into this clinic down in Anchorage. And I went and I saw that doctor, and he changed my life. And I was like, dude, you've changed my life, because I can't tell you the thousands upon thousands of people that I've sent into an office and I've never seen them before. I never saw them a second time. So for you to come back and to tell me that you're still getting adjusted, and that was 7 years ago, like, that's my miracle story. And I was like, "Can I take a picture with you?" He's like, "For sure." So I took a quick picture with him and I sent it to the practicing doc down there. And I was like, "Look who I found today. One of the first people I scheduled into your clinic 7 years ago."
That's
And
great.
it matters, man, because now that guy's a better human.
Hmm.
And if we checked everybody's atlases that were making decisions politically, we'd have a whole different outlook on life, I believe.
No doubt.
So, with those stories, I really appreciate you being our guest today on 550 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. If people want to reach out to you or work with you or learn more about you, where can we send them?
My office is Nazareth Chiropractic in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. My website is www.nazchiro.com. That's NAZCHIRO.com. I also have a Facebook page as well. And anybody's welcome to call, stop in. If you're a student or a doctor in the area, just give me a holler. We'll have lunch. We'll talk shop. And just one other quick thought I had is, when don't just keep hanging around people that are yes people and agree with you all the time. The thing you need to do sometimes, even if you've been in practice 30, 40, 50 years, is go challenge your beliefs. Get out there and get somebody to say, no, that's not the way. No, think about it this way, because you never know it all. You're never going to know it all. And just be up for learning every single day in this profession.
Well, I'm so thankful for this opportunity to have you on our show today. Thank you for giving us your time and talent. And thanks for believing in what we do over here at Chiro Hustle. I'm going to close out by telling everybody, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. And Dr. Jeff, I want you to have a great rest of your day, okay?
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. And thanks for all you do for chiropractic.
Thank you, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.